Welcome to the Strategies That Stack podcast. I'm your host, Victoria H. Boyd. I'm a corporate escapee and marketing consultant, and I'm on a mission to help you build a marketing strategy that is so stacked you become absolutely unignorable. Each week, I will bring you real stories, the actual data, and the true strategies that have propelled online creators and entrepreneurs to the top of their industries. So grab your coffee and let's jump in. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Strategies That Stack podcast. This episode is one that I have wanted to record for months, but it didn't feel like the right time. I didn't feel quite ready to do it yet, and other topics were coming up that I wanted to prioritize more. So we are finally at the point where I am ready to chat about the rebrand, and I'm ready to answer those questions that you might have sent me on Threads. And I think it's going to be a really fun episode. So before we get started, I have a couple fun things to share with you. Number one is I started a YouTube channel. I know, I can't believe I just said those words together. Like, I never thought I'd actually ever start a YouTube channel, even though I've been saying I've wanted to for years. So far, I've just really enjoyed it as like a little bit of a creative outlet that's just very different than anything else in my business. So I will have that linked in the show notes. Another fun announcement is that this episode is actually going to be related to an episode that is coming out in December on the Brand Y podcast. I talked to my friend Jess on her podcast all about the rebrand, and it was a really fun interview. We went through like the history of the business, the history of my brand as it was, what's pivoted, what's changed, what my experience was. And while she wasn't the designer that I worked with, it was really fun because she is a designer, and we chatted through a lot of really great stuff. So I will definitely be sharing that with my email list when that launches. And since it's related to this one, I thought it made a lot of sense to record this one with some of those questions now to get you ready for that episode in December. Let's get right into it. This is definitely going to be kind of a riff. I have very loose notes, and by loose notes, I mean like no notes. I just want to talk from my heart about this. And then when I wrap up, I will be going through some questions that people submitted to me on Threads. If you're not on Threads, you should totally be on Threads. It's like the golden retriever of social media. So yeah, I rebranded my business. I took down my website, redesigned it, put it back up. And there was a lot more that went into it than that, obviously. Let's kind of back up a little bit. I have been in business. I've been a personal brand literally since like 2014. Like, since I heard the word personal brand, I became a personal brand. I remember in college, I went to like a media day thing with one of our like sister schools. Like, I went to a SUNY college, and if you're from New York, you know what that means. But basically, like, I went to one big college that has many different campuses. I went to a different campus for like a media event, basically. A big takeaway that I had during that day was, you're a brand. You're a personal brand. If you want to get a job, this is how you're going to stand out. You got to be a personal brand, da 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 da. And back then, I think personal branding was a newer concept. Now it's, everybody understands the words personal brand. They might not really get it, what it fully means, but like they have an idea. Like, they would know Oprah, like they would know like Oprah is a personal brand. So, it was back when like this concept of personal branding was very new. And at that time, I went home from the conference. I don't even think I made it back to the campus. I got into the bus on the campus to go back to campus. And I was like updating my Twitter account to my name. I was getting rid of like my silly, like my handle growing up was Vicavaca for everything. Like, I was Vicavaca on Instagram, on Twitter, my MySpace was Vicavaca, like everything was Vicavaca. I was like, nope, I want to go by my name. So I started changing everything over to my maiden name, which was Victoria Harris. That was taken on a lot of spots. So I was like, I Victoria Harris, because I loved Apple products. So anyway, like that's just a funny little evolution that took place there. So yeah, I started honing in my personal brand in 2014. Fast forward to 2015, I graduated college. I had my portfolio website from going through college, and I was looking for a job. And I struggled really hard to find a job. Yeah, it was hard. It was like I was also moving to a different state at that time. And if you're familiar with the Midwest at all, I will say that they are very buddy with their schools. Like if you are a Purdue grad and they know you're a Purdue grad, like you can get in almost anywhere. And I was really struggling with that in general. I had an interview. I had somebody that wanted to hire me in March, but I didn't graduate until May. They wanted me to like start in March. I was like, I can't. Like, I am physically still in New York. I have to graduate in May. I'm not going to graduate. At that point, I decided to go for my master's. And I promised, like, this is relevant. Because I was struggling to find a job, I was like, I'm going to go for my master's. Maybe I just need more. And at this point, like, I had a portfolio. I had a flashy, sexy resume. I had the best internship a girl could ask for. I was creative. I was lit up by social media marketing. I was so into it. Like, I was so into it. And I was building up a very small audience, but a very engaged audience at that time on Twitter. I was attending Twitter chats, and I just could not get any footing. I could not get my foot in the door. So I was like, I'm going to go for my master's. It'll be fun. I'll love it. It'll be great. And it'll give me something to do because now I'm living with my boyfriend, now husband, in Indiana, and I can't find a job I like. So I took a job as like a 1099 contractor doing marketing for a RC boat company. Boy, the stories I have from that. Fast forward, I quit that job, got a job at a hotel management company doing social media, community management, and I was like the marketing coordinator for like 11 different hotel properties. And during that process, I was going for my master's, and I actually won a trip down to Florida. I went to college at Full Sail for their Hall of Fame week. And in that Hall of Fame week, there were so many conversations about freelancing and about starting your own business and entrepreneurship. And for some reason, I was so drawn to those topics and those talks. Like, there were a ton of other ones, I'm sure, but like the only ones I remember were all about like personal branding and all about your business and all about making money as a creative and as a creator. And it was like the first time I was in a spot with a whole bunch of people that thought like me, that had similar views as me, that understood me, which was very weird. It was very weird. And I remember being like, like I'm not alone. I'm not weird, which was interesting. But anyway, one of the panels that I attended was by a personal branding strategist, Phil Palin. I will tag him in the show notes. And he said something to the effect of, well, if a door is not opening for you, build a door. And this clicked, something really turned something on inside of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't find a job that checks the boxes that I'm trying to check. So maybe I should just build my own door. So I went home from this and I changed my portfolio site from hire me to, contract me to work on your brand, contract me to do insert marketing here. And that was when things kind of pivoted to, I'm going to start my own business. And at this point, I had a logo that I think I made in Word. I talk about this in the Brand Why podcast, which I will link when that is up, and it will go out to my email list. So definitely subscribe to that if you're not already on it. I just started moving my website from what it was to more of a personal brand, telling my story, hire me, showcasing my portfolio in a different way. And yeah, that was when like things really started. And this was when I started to have this foundation of what my brand was, what my beliefs were, what my values were, what I wanted to be known for online. Like things started to get connected at this point. So again, now we're in 2016. I graduate with my master's. I'm still kind of struggling to find a job. I'm still not sure, if freelancing is for me, if entrepreneurship is for me. Like I grew up with an entrepreneur in the family, multiple entrepreneurs in the family, actually. Like my dad, he had his own marketing company. He did mostly website design. He did voiceovers, video editing, some things like that. My grandfather had a photography studio. So like it was in my blood. My grandma, she was a dance instructor. My ballet teacher growing up owned the studio. My mom was always entrepreneurial, even though she didn't like start a business. She was always just very business oriented. So I grew up seeing how hard entrepreneurship was. I saw the negatives and I wasn't sure if that was for me. I also grew up with the strong, firm belief that like you go to college, you climb the corporate ladder, you stay in that job for 20 years, you retire, yada, 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 you get the white picket fence, and like the American dream is handed to you basically. And I was still holding on to the hope that I could find a job. And it got kind of dicey. Like I had a ton of interviews, some of which I really wanted. And at this point I was freelancing. I had retainer clients, I had one-off clients, I was designing websites, I had social media management clients, and I was charging like pennies on the dollar. Like I was not charging enough to ever be able to quit my job. Like I kind of wanted to, but I didn't know at this time. And I'd interview, they'd be like, hey, we'd love to have you, but you have to shut down your personal brand. Like we'd love to hire you, but you can't have your website. You can't do Twitter chats. You can't do da 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 da. And I was like, no, I don't want to shut down my personal brand. Like, no, like I'm not shutting down what I've worked so hard for so far just for another job that still doesn't check all the boxes that I wanted. And I'm not going to go into the boxes that I wanted, but I wanted like a certain salary. I wanted to be able to work from home at least some days a week. I wanted autonomy. I wanted continuing education. I wanted like all of those things that college tells you you're going to get if you go to college. Like I wanted my dream. Like that's what I wanted. Yeah, I struggled to find a job. Fast forward to February 2028 or find another job. I had the hotel job still at this point. Fast forward to February 2028. Gosh, not 2028. Oh my gosh. February 2018. I woke up one morning. Things felt different. I can tell the story later. But essentially, I walked in to work, got in a little argument with my supervisor, and I quit on the spot. And then it was like, okay, here we are. And at this point, like my branding was truly black, white, and a teal. And it was enough. It got me that far. It was going to get me further kind of thing. But I went home and I started working on my website, creating packages, really like doing the work to build a business because it's all I had. I quit my job. I had $52 of recurring revenue coming in from website hosting for one of my clients and website maintenance. And that was it. That was what I had. And that was what I could rely on and depend on. I got to work. I knew I had to find clients. That was when I started doing DM outreach. That was when and back then it was a very new and novel thing. And I didn't know that people didn't do that. And is that how people found clients back then? But I was DMing people. I was having conversations with people. I had like a list of dream clients that I wanted to work with. Like I was green in the best way. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like I was so green and I was so new that I was fearless. And that led me to matching my full-time income in less than 6 weeks and way overmatching it, like way overmatching my full-time income where I was good to go. So fast forward to the end of 2018, I decided to create a membership site because I was getting all sorts of questions about how I was charging 4 figures as what on the surface appeared to be a brand new social media manager. When really I'd been doing it since 2014. I had people that were like, how are you charging $1,500 a month for just social media management? And at first I was like, I'm not answering this question. Like, no, I'm not answering this question. I didn't understand that those were the people that were coming to me for help. My coach at the time, I was in a membership actually. So memberships were really the only thing at this point I was exposed to. And he was like, why don't you teach people this? Like teach people how to be social media managers. They clearly want to know. And I was like, okay, sounds fun. Like, let's do it. It was not fun. I did not like it. Yeah. Anyway, I created Managed Social, which no longer exists, but it's relevant to the story because I actually took the branding that I paid for. I had somebody do branding for Managed Social. I basically bought like brand in a box. It wasn't like strategic at all. It was basically like, if you like this style, you can have it and I'll create a logo and you're in this specific style. You'll get custom colors and like these will be your fonts and like good to go. And this was when like hand lettering was really big. So it was like one of those like whimsical, like yet sophisticated and like it was one of those kinds of fonts or logos. So that came with colors and all that. And I liked the colors enough that I was like, why don't I just adopt these to my personal brand too? And those colors I actually kept with me until this year. So the yellow, the purple, the blue, the dark blue, the teal, those were all colors that came with that like brand in a box concept that I bought for Managed Social. And I just applied it to my business, my main business, my personal brand business, even though like they weren't really the colors for me, I don't think. Anyway, I rode those colors all the way through this year. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later in the episode because this is relating to a question I got. If you follow me, you might know that in 2023, I was hit by a car while I was riding my bike, and that changed absolutely everything in my life. It changed everything in my business. It changed the way I view the world. I'm still healing from it. You can probably tell. I have been recovering from that ever since. And the rebrand was a big healing process of kind of shedding that old skin that I think that chapter closed when I got hit by the car. I don't know if you're woo at all, but I think that getting hit by a car like closed a door and closed that chapter. And it was like time for something new. Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to pause for a second. All right, I'm back. Yeah, so like I was saying, that kind of closed a chapter for me. And deciding to rebrand in May this year, I turned 30, and my husband and I booked a trip to London. I was walking around London, and I wasn't thinking about work. I don't think I even bought my laptop to that trip. Like, I was truly committed to like unplugging, being with my husband, enjoying the incredible city that is London, if you've ever been there. And we were walking around Neal's Yard. And if you've ever been to Neal's Yard, it is like this cute little hidden alleyway with like beautiful painted brick and plants. The vibes are just, the vibes are so yummy and so immaculate. And I remember standing there and being like, this is it. Like, this is what I am. Like, this feeling that I had in Neal's Yard embodies me. And I didn't know like what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like. I mean, I knew I wanted something funky. I knew like eclectic. I knew like the colors that I was seeing in front of my eyes in Neal's Yard, but I didn't know like how that translated to me specifically. I just knew the feeling that I wanted from my brand. And at this point I was like playing around with like Canva, and I was playing around with like colors, and I was like taking pictures from Google, and I was like identifying colors that I liked, and like I was starting to kind of ideate what I wanted my brand to look like. And that was when I decided to hire somebody, because I realized it was way harder than I expected it to be to come up with colors. And I learned like rebranding is so much more than that. And like I have a business degree, I have a marketing degree. I know enough branding to be dangerous, but I think that branding is something you always need somebody else to do for you. That is a hill I will die on, that I think branding you always need somebody else to do for you, because you are too close and you will always be too close. So anyway, we get home from London and I just threw out randomly on Threads, I'm thinking about rebranding, looking for a designer. And I had a whole bunch of people reach out. I did like 3 or 4 discovery calls. I was doing all of the research, having all of the conversations, and I finally made a decision to work with a designer. And it was the best decision I could have made for myself. And I love what we did together. Let's talk a little bit about the rebrand process. I'm actually going to go into the questions here, because I think that that's going to lead us exactly where we need to go. So one of the first questions I got was it mainly based on your own inspiration and preferences, or was it in response to your market? This question actually came from one of my members in Conversion Catalyst Club, Anika. Happy you are listening to this. So this was very much like an aha moment, or like a gut feeling that I needed to rebrand. Like I said, I was in London in May, and standing in Neal's Yard was like the first time I had a vision for the brand with a lot of clarity. It was like the first time that I realized what was holding me back. And it was that I had like literally outgrown my brand, and I needed to come up with the times. I needed to have my online presence match where I was as like a person and where I was as a business. And there was like this mismatch. Like Actually, Jordan, who I'll talk about her a little bit later, Jordan was my designer. I think she said it perfectly. And she said something about my original brand of like, it's like giving like fun corporate or something. That's like not what I am anymore. Like, yes, that's probably very close to who I was in 2018 because I just quit my job. I was still shedding like the corporate stuff from me energetically. So it probably was exactly right. Like she probably hit the nail on the head. And yeah, so I would say it's basically was inspiration as well as like preference, but it was also like time and just business involvement that really led me to market my business. It had almost nothing to do with the market. It actually had absolutely nothing to do with the market. It had everything to do with me internally changing, pivoting, evolving, yada, yada, yada. The next question I got was realistic timelines, budgets, and what you did or didn't hire out. And this came from my friend Sam at Nomad Copy. So I decided to rebrand in May of 2024. I found a designer very quickly on Threads. I went through 3 discovery calls, went back to my first girly, and began the onboarding process with her. So Jordan started designing the visual identity on July 1st. And for pricing, I paid about $2,000 USD. I think it might have been a little more than that. I think it was 2,500 USD. So a hefty amount. And what I got from that was my colors, my font, my logo, pattern work, and like a brand guide that really has, I open it once a week minimum. The brand guide that she gave me is amazing. It's so comprehensive. And I open it once a week. I'm not kidding. But that's what I hired out. And I'm really glad I did. She was at the top of my budget. And I didn't know what my budget was. I thought I could get this for like $750. I didn't know that like designers were as expensive as they are. And that still left me needing to do my website. I didn't have any graphics created, didn't have like templates, right, that match like the new brand. So it was kind of an interesting spot to like leave off on, but I really trusted Jordan and she delivered. Like honestly, it was like the best experience I've had with a service provider, and she'll be linked down below. I recommend her all day. Like she's perfect, flawless. Like working with her was so great. I can't say enough good things. So, that was like $2,000 to $2,500. I can't remember exactly. And I ended up rolling everything out the first week in August. So May 2024, I got the idea to rebrand. July 2024, we did the work for it. Like she did the brand identity. And then the first week of August, I actually was able to roll out the new website. With that, I wrote all of the copy on the website, pulling only a little bit from my old website. So it's mostly all new copy. I'd purchased some templates in the past for copy that like I referenced for just some like general assistance and like structuring guidance and stuff like that. And I can't remember like exactly what ones I used and what I paid for them or what I got for free in a course or in a bundle, or we all have like a collection of templates at this point, I'm sure. So there was definitely some expenses there, but I'd invested in those in the past, so I don't really include them in this math. Also used a tonic site template that I had, and that template I believe was like $1,500. Not cheap, probably one of the more expensive themes in the market, but I already had it because it's the same one that I use for my podcast website. So that license also applies to like anything I create under my business. So I used it for victoriahboyd.com because I could, and that was fun. So $1,500, it was expensive and I don't regret it. But overall, like that's what I hired out. That's what I did myself. And I'm overall very happy with the results. Timeline wise, I say it's done, but I still have stuff that I have to update. Like if you look at DM to Dollars sales page, it is still with the old colors. I haven't moved it yet. With Conversion Catalyst Club, if you look at any of my Thrivecart pages, they all still have the old colors on them. And the reason my Thrivecart pages especially haven't been updated to the new colors is because I'm not sure if I'm going to redesign the sales page on my own website. So I'm just not investing the time in Thrivecart right now. I'm still using Thrivecart. I still stand by Thrivecart. I'm just not sure what I want to do with my checkout system right now, if I want it on my website or if I just want to keep doing the sales pages on Thrivecart. So just a little bit of a decision-making like process there. And that's like the lowest hanging fruit. Like, I don't mind. And I actually love when like products have their own visual identity. So like I might actually keep DM to dollars in those old colors and like let DM to dollars own that. But like, whatever, we'll play. I don't know. That's to be determined. But that's kind of where I'm at timeline wise. Like it's still a work in progress, but it's done, if that makes sense. And the last question I love, which was, how has your rebrand impacted the way you share your personal brand story? And if so, how? So I really liked this question. And I think this rebrand has actually been more of a healing process than I expected it to be. Like I said earlier, I was hit by a car summer 2023 riding my bike, and that changed everything for me. And I'm not totally ready to share that story. I'm not totally ready to share everything that has shifted yet. It's still raw. Like it's still raw. But the rebrand did heal me in a lot of ways. It helped me shed that old skin that has left me ready to continue the healing process. So the accident really shifted every aspect of my life. It shifted how I see how we're set up as a society, how the United States is set up, how we're failed as like middle class citizens, how, I don't know, I'm not ready to go into all of it yet. So I can't really say, but I will say I feel way more confident marketing my business now than I did with my old brand, because I really felt like I had outgrown that before I realized it. And it's really exciting now that my brand has been like realized. It's got its own existence, and it feels just way more right to be sending people to my website because it actually reflects me and who I am and where I am. Okay, this was a little longer than I expected it to be. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, I would love to know your biggest takeaways. And if you would be so kind as to rate and review this on your podcast app, that would be so great, as it is so vital to the health of the podcast and getting people to see it and discover it. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at Victoria H. Boyd, or just send me a message, or not a message, a thread on Threads, a post or something on Threads, and I will respond to you there as well. And thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.